some
That's
people
been a lot of
but
the questions this tour. I was like, what does it take? What's the one piece of advice you'd give to an aspiring musician? And I think Dustin will always answer songwriting. But then after that, it's like, do you have it in you to basically, if you have the songs, do you have it in you to commit all of it and all of your time? I don't know. I didn't know if I did when I first started this. And I remember when I had to quit my job and it was like, all right, this is real now. Like, here we go.
Hello, welcome to another episode of 2020. My name is Cory Paza, here as always with Siobhán Cronin and Benny Goodman, and we are continuing the train rolling with our Starset feature, this time with Ron DeChant.
Yeah, so for everyone that's been binge watching all of our Starset episodes, you get to watch Ron again. Definitely check out his earlier episodes too to get some more background on him. But we got topical in this one. It was really great to catch up and talk more about the tour that we're on right now, or that we were on, depending on when this comes out.
But don't worry about it. If you've already seen the other episodes with him, he's still a wealth of complete knowledge, and we extrapolate it from him. So if you want to learn something, just watch and listen.
Yeah,
absolutely. All right, like and subscribe, 2020-d.com. Here we go with part one, Ron DeChant right now. All right, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of 2020. I'm Siobhán, here as always with Ben and Cory, and we are so excited to welcome back my dear friend, Starset bandmate, mastermind of all things music marketing. We're going to dive into it, but Ron DeChant, who's here joining us again from a wonderful hotel lobby while we are on tour doing our acoustic run. So, Ron, thank you so much for dedicating hours on a day off to be here with us.
Good to see you guys again.
Yeah,
you too, man. And just to point this out, you guys can absolutely see each other right now, right?
No, he's actually two booths over.
She's over there. I can hear her. I can't see her.
I hope I'm not driving you nuts.
So it's kind of how they filmed that movie Heat with Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, that they never actually sat. They sat in the same booth, but on different days. So they're not really looking at one another.
This is a very COVID-conscious podcast.
Yeah.
Social distancing in its original form.
Let's just dive into it. Obviously we're getting our Starset fix recently, which is always fun. And you guys are currently on an acoustic tour, although I think when this episode comes out, you may be wrapping it up or close to it at least. So why don't we just get a check-in right now and just see how things are going? Yeah.
We are 22 shows in. I looked at it this morning. We've got 36, so we're more than halfway. It's been cool. This is something that we kind of tell everybody this and tell our fans this, but like Dustin and I were sitting in COVID, and I think I talked about this in the last podcast, but like we were sitting there like, oh my God, like what are we going to do? How are we going to get out and play shows in any capacity? And maybe there's a chance for us to do it before everyone else does. And we birthed the first acoustic event tour right out of COVID. And COVID, it was still kind of happening. It was before Delta actually hit. So this is just a continuation of that because of how awesome it was. Fans they went nuts, and honestly, I think it takes a certain capacity of people to be able to do it. The 7 of us now with Cory added to the band. Everybody's got the right mentality, and everyone spends time talking to everybody after these shows, and that's the whole reason why we do it. So it's cool to be out doing it again.
I have to jump in, Ron, not to cut you off, but I have to give you a lot of credit, which a lot of people don't know, but you booked this tour basically entirely by yourself, which a lot of people might assume there's a whole team, of agents and promoters or whatever, which in the cases of the live show might be true, but you really put in a lot of work, and it's DIY in a lot of ways, which is really impressive. If I were to take myself out of the Starset world and just look at you from the outside, I think it's really cool that you pull it off.
It's slowly becoming either a healthy or unhealthy addiction. I don't know. The DIY stuff that is our whole universe is, that's the only way I know how to put it. But so far it's been, you're on it with us, It's every day is a totally different day, totally different place. And as most shows and touring is, different culture, different state, different people, but all the same thing when it comes down to what the fans say to us and why they, appreciate it. And we, like, again, guys, like we're talking about this, like Siobhán and I know this, but like everyone gets a chance after these acoustic events to sit down or get in line and talk to us. And we don't really usher them away like a step and repeat photo or anything like that, like a normal meet and greet you'd see with a lot of bigger bands. We are literally at a brewery with a beer, and we'll talk to them as long as they want. They come back around 3 times, take a selfie. Like there's all kinds of, artwork they bring or cool things they'll say to us or stories that they want to hear. And we take the time, all 7 of us, to do it. So honestly, it's fun. We're in a rhythm now. So.
Having been there as a fan, I can say it's a good time. It's a blast.
Yeah.
The first.
Yeah, you guys got to see the third one, I think, like the one in Hampton.
Yeah. The first time you guys came around with this, when it was all kind of new, it was really kind of cool to see, because I had never seen that with any band doing, that kind of performance, and then just big old hang party afterwards. Even signing my leftovers.
I was going to say, you got to show on the. I know we've showed it on the show before, but I don't know if Ron's seen it. You should, if it's not out of the way, you should show.
I think we brought it up the last time he was on.
Oh, okay.
But I'm always happy to take down this.
Corey might have the most unique piece of signed memorabilia.
and I'm going to go on record as saying too that it is really cool because you guys, like, I'm disillusioned now. Like, I don't care. Like, Iron Maiden could be on the next table over for me, and I'll be like, I gotta go. Like, it doesn't. But there used to be that moment, when you were a kid, like when I'd see Ozzy, and I'm like, oh my God, does he actually like sleep upside down, and does he drink blood? And I've seen your fans, and they really wonder about you. In fact, Adam, he'll tell you every time, make them ask questions, and they do ask, ask questions.
Justin starts that now. He's literally asking questions to everybody, or making them ask them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But this is why it's so genius, because you give them just enough to want more. So like, you guys are literally like, you're like the army. You're recruiting on the, like, oh yeah, come do some push-ups, some pull-ups. We'll give you a shirt, whatever. But you're doing it with the guys of a band. You're like, don't worry, we're recruiting you for our army to go take over an interstellar battle. And like, I 100% believe that. And the fact is, the fans are
other than collecting email addresses, I'm not sure how to activate the army. But
there's going to be some like subliminal code word that goes out at some point, and it's just.
Well,
let me ask you this. You don't think that your fan base has not been waiting for a sign on Dustin's Instagram for something to happen?
Yeah, but I don't think it's like a.
So he could have put up like the bat signal. So you don't think he could put up the bat signal and just leave it there, and people wouldn't wonder what it was?
I think we talked about the bat signal last time, and I still have yet to find someone with a big enough light and a symbol in the sky. So we'll figure that out.
No, but this is a good point because and this is something that a lot of the fans have said, but we really have to appreciate them because they do a lot of the groundwork, at least from my perspective, of sharing the music, bringing people in, and every time we do it again, somebody brings a friend or they play the music for somebody else. So really, they are kind of I don't want to say missionaries because it's got a religious undertone, but kind of that idea, just like sharing it.
They dub themselves the messengers, which is one of the things, the monikers they go by. But to that point, we don't really even promote this tour much. Like, there's some dark ads and some things that are like under the radar, but like, this is all word of mouth through the people that really have gone to the bigger shows. And like you said, Siobhán, like, have shared the music, have told their friends, had said, you need to see these guys in a different way. Like, it's them. This is the reason we do it is them, but the reason why there's people coming to these is them too. So
this being the second time you've gone through this process, were there things that you learned the first time that you've kind of implemented this time through?
Yeah, there's it is by far the lesser of all production, lesser of all logistical hassles. It's one bus. It's a good unit of people. We certainly think that we've really found a way to dial in the sound even better. One thing for sure, we didn't have the piano I was going back and forth between playing piano and bass in a lot of the songs last time. Having Cory here is amazing. It just fills out the whole sound. So, 7 people playing an acoustic thing is not really, it's still not easy for someone to mix, but we've got a great guy out with us. And, I don't know, Siobhán, I think we've really just honed in on a really good set too. I think that's probably the lesson learned too. We had a wheel at one point where we could choose 14 songs and it was just chaos. Like, oh my God, what are we playing next? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, having 7 instruments available is just like, you can turn anything into a great arrangement with that many players. It's hard to do if you've only got a 3 or 4 piece band, or people have to switch back and forth between instruments. So I think it's really cool.
You guys also have, you're so many multi-instrumentalists and that understand so many things, and you're like crazy Jedi level musicians. So like if you and Z are sitting there, for those that don't know, Z, the cellist in Starset, are sitting there like working with Cory, who's stripping down a song and just doing it on acoustic piano, and he's a freaking maniac that makes noises and pedals and plays guitar, but happens to also makes noises on his keyboard, but understands the whole like crazy transcendent man concepts behind all these instruments that they're going to take over us. And eventually his keyboard, he's going to be serving it. So Cory understands that. So to have him go back to an acoustic piano and have you two girls sit down, you could get rid of the rest of the band and it would sound awesome as far as I'm concerned.
Agree.
This is Cory Juba, by the way, just for anyone that maybe isn't familiar with Starset. I'm not there. Although if they asked, I'd be happy to join.
And we had him on the podcast, so if you haven't, go and listen to his episode
it's
for
very
anyone
deceptive,
that wants to get to know him.
Because I wanted to be Cory, and his name's Cory, and he's not that Cory, but I've been saying for like at least 2 years I wanted to be in Starset. So it's very obnoxious that you not only get another guy who I like and plays guitar equally well, but that his name's Cory. That seems like a personal smite.
That was very much just, you're like, wait, you're thinking about Benny? All right, Cory. Yeah, that's perfect. Let's grab that. Hey, man, if it ever turns out that Dustin only says we're 7/9 of a slip knot, if we get 8 and 9, you know.
I can play the keg. I get the keg all day.
The keg, dude. You need a keg thrower. Yeah, I'm with you.
But I want to ask, and I don't know how deep we want to get into business here, but you know, part of the reason this works is because obviously for a long time coming, you being involved in a lot of the logistics have kept track of the activity of fans and people and coming to the shows. And I think that's a big part of why certain things work that may not work with other bands. And I wonder if you can talk about like, you know, having some of that foresight to know, like have a grasp on the engagement and like kind of knowing what's going on in different areas with different people. Because I think that's a big part of why this works, because it's targeted to the people that we know are going to come out, correct?
Yeah. Big part of that is where I came from. So when I was doing military contracting, I knew it wasn't like, well, we did human capital management. So we were managing people and assets and trying to understand where they were going, where they needed to go, what was the demand, what was the supply, and then like all the transit type stuff that we needed to track. So I built systems with good database guys and developers to do that. So I had a early knack at like my early 20s that I had to like always keep an eye on data. And I got like really obsessed with it. And I thought it was cool because I could find ways to show the bigwigs at the company, oh, hey, by the way, like you're wasting all this money, or we're really not serving the client well. This doesn't exist, and this is how we can fix it. So I use data like just by happenstance. I wasn't really an IT guy, but I kind of just grew into it knowing computers. So that obsession of data kind of just poured into this. Also, if you leverage your Facebook and Instagram and some of the other mainstay places, YouTube, et cetera, where your fans exist, you can essentially analyze that data and make it really work for yourself. I think it's funny to really just take that all apart and then start to look at it from like a geographical perspective, because that's really what matters, right? So if you're a touring band, you're an entity where people are going to come to you in their local areas, you need to like plot that and then expand it and then figure out how to market to it.
Do you know who you remind me of? Have you ever seen the movie The Lawnmower Man?
I haven't.
Oh man, this is a great, awesome 80s, maybe early 90s horror film. I think it's a Stephen King book, but they find this really dumb guy that like mows the lawn, right? But then they do this experiment where they make him like watch TV like Clockwork Orange, and his brain just absorbs it all. So within like 4 days, he's the smartest guy in the world and he can speak like different languages and stuff. And I feel like you going on tour with Starset and analyzing all this data, you're like the Lawnmower Man. Just like on a Monday you play bass and on Friday you know French.
Well, to make you happy, Ben, he was working on the bus a couple days ago because we had an issue with the lock, and so I took a picture of Ron fixing the bus because I know you love that moment.
Well, that's the thing so Ron is, you guys are all MVPs. This is what I've learned is that playing an instrument in Starset is like the fourth reason you should be in the band. and that like you should either know another language, you should be able to understand, even interpreting what Dustin says and making it into a PowerPoint. That's a skill worth being in the band. I'm sure Cory, like again, the fact that he understands, like, do you know what DMX 512 protocol is? And he's like, yeah, you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Who cares if he knows guitar or bass or keyboards? He'll figure it out. Like he wouldn't even be talking to us if he wasn't a savant.
There is definitely a high entry point. Or I'm sorry, no, yeah, a high entry point in terms of like a hiring process to that 8 of 9, 9 of 9 position. I'm just going to belabor that, Benny, so you know where you're at.
Like, can Elon Musk get in because he owns Twitter now?
I don't want anybody carrying a sink into the band.
Okay. Well, he's got connections to Kanye, so I didn't.
That's oh god. The trash fire. That is whatever that. And who knows when this comes out? Maybe it's way different. This is evolving.
No, he's been a trash fire for a long time.
Yeah. But now it's like really on fire. So.
I feel like when I saw him on some special and he was in his own church on his own property singing Nirvana. And he was doing it terribly. Wow. And he had a bunch of people around him going like, I feel the music and all that. And it's like he's singing bad Nirvana out of key. And everyone thought it was like a holy experience. I'm like, this can't be good. So
who's everyone though? Because if I saw that, I'd be like,
well, whoever
he
was on his property.
Cult following.
Oh yeah. He's worth $18 billion. Of course he has a cult following.
I don't think he's worth that anymore.
No?
I think he lost his billionaire status.
Sketcher said no.
He did? He lost his billionaire status?
I don't know.
Wait, who are we talking about now?
Kanye.
Kanye, yeah, he lost his like deal with Adidas or something that was worth like
but
like 500 million or something like that. And
but he's worth 18 billion.
No, he's
18.
Not.
Like crazy. Google it.
No, he's not.
He's canceling himself left
Forbes,
and right.
Forbes just put out an article saying he lost his billionaire status. So I don't know that. I guess I've only looked at headlines, but anyways.
That's all you can read these days, Cory. Just read the headlines. Don't read anything else.
That's where I get all my, data and information about the world, and
Real
I
news.
Just think it's take it for what it is. It's truth. So, kind of coming back to the current tour you guys are on, has there been any kind of unique experiences yet? You said you were halfway through. Anything of note that you want to talk about, or any funny stories?
Well, I wasn't on the. Well, you were on the mega hike that killed Brock, right, Siobhán?
No, I wasn't. I missed that, actually. We were doing Cory's podcast that day. Yeah.
Well, we've taken it. I mean, this because it's much more low key and not as intense travel as well as show. We've been able to do some pretty cool hikes, and then we did Camelback in Phoenix. That was nice to get out. I actually hadn't done that, and for whatever reason, you should do that one. We went out to the Garden of the Gods in Colorado Springs. I know that Brock and Dustin, some of the guys went and did some stuff in Salt Lake, which I guess Brock came home and his legs didn't work for 2 days. Dustin and I got on what are those like Lime motorized bikes in Seattle, and like literally because we had a later event in Seattle in one day did like all of Seattle. I mean, the Space Needle, the markets, the Pop Culture Museum, and like went through all of it and ate, and it was great. This is what I mean by that is like each day is if you've got the energy, you can go see a ton. And it kind of reminds me of like when we were in a van, when it was just the 4 of us, we would literally just park at places that we wanted to go to, whether it was Napa or like the meteor crater in the middle of the desert, just anywhere. And we had that opportunity to go see it, and we had the energy to see it. I haven't had that in a while. I mean, Siobhán knows the big tours are exhausting.
They are, yeah. I mean, I think you definitely get the skill of learning how to design a micro vacation when you tour a lot, because that's how it is. Totally. It's like, I don't think, Ron, you came along, but a bunch of us went up to Napa Valley the day we had off in Sacramento. You were working on the bus, that's right. I walk out of the bus in Sacramento, and Ron's got the whole front end taken off, and he's underneath the bus with like a tool bag. I'm like, okay, Ron's out for today. But a bunch of us went up to Napa Valley, and it was one of those things where by the time we got the rental car and all this stuff, we get there at like 3 p.m. and we have like 2 hours to hit like all of the wineries that we want. So we're like in and out, like super fast, like 15 minutes at each place. But you figure it out. So that was really fun. Just
it's
days like that.
Definitely an added skill to figure out. Like I think you call it micro vacations. I will vacation differently my entire life because of this. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Is it a bad thing to show Dustin that you're good at these things that would normally cost him money to get other grunt workers to do? Or was it one of those things where he's like, I'm going to throw you out of the band? You're like, I could fix the bus.
I can't fix everything, but I'm learning a hell of a lot more about the buses every tour, right? So like it just becomes your home. I mean, if anybody's a homeowner at some point when something breaks, unless you're just lazy, you learn about it and you fix it. Well, that's happening like every nuance of each bus. To your question though, no, I think that's what makes us agile. I think that's what makes this band to be able to adapt and move quickly. Not just the bus repairs, but like Cory understanding DMX protocol or like whatever it may be, like all those, specific niches that understand, you're just a higher level performer, a higher level person. We need those people. Our crew's the same way. Like you've got to be versatile because there's so many different things that are being thrown at us depending on how we tour or what show we're doing. And even like these acoustic events are smaller and less intense, but there's still some versatility to it. And we're adapting and doing new things with merch and different ways of, managing the day. And our crew's just got to be able to adapt to that. And luckily we've got a great group of people out.
What does the prep look like for a tour like this versus a, bigger production tour in terms of the band, rehearsal, but also all the tech and everything that goes with it?
Luckily, we've done these type of events before every show on our main tour. So we basically had an acoustic rig dialed in, set up. The only thing we didn't do is it was just a little bit messier with looms and cabling and all that. So I had one of our main girls, Nick, set up the warehouse that we have with the plot of what we do every day. And that was set up a week out. And she just, went through every single line and loomed it exactly to the width and dimensions that we set up every day, labeled everything, and then accounted for spares. And, after the races at that point, I mean, we're literally carrying a spare desk, a spare, make that front of house guy just on an iPad, but it's super easy compared to the big show. God, there's so many more parts to a bigger show. This is like,
Well, let me ask you this, because it seems like you've gone and infiltrated every single city, and that you're like, the places, because like you went to Wally's in New Hampshire, which is like just it's a place like where band people know to go, but it's like, how does that dude from another state know to go here? But like that was a good call. So do you know, like, have you just hung out with people across the United States and been like, oh, that's a cool place?
I can't remember if we talked about it on the last episode, how in depth it got to like literally being on the phone for 3 weeks straight, but like that's basically what it takes. So I don't know. That's just, it's not something I learned in the past. I just know that if you want to get something done, you just don't stop until you don't put the phone down until it's done. Right. So what I just circle is using data. We would look at all the cities that have done well in the past. Look at where we've been recently. Maybe we hit a city too many times and you got to be careful not to go back to it too quickly because you're not going to really draw. And then you circle all those cities I literally have a map on my desktop and kind of look at densities and understand it. And then it's like, okay, plot that on a spreadsheet. Who do I know? All right. I don't know anyone in those. I don't know anybody in probably half of these cities. Okay. Well, that's cold calls. I got to hit up my agent and maybe he's got a friend or an old promoter that might've worked with us in like the early days when we were in small clubs. He might have some person in the area. And then I piggyback that off of radio. And the first tour, I used the radio team at the label and they would hit up local radio. And then I'd get on the phone with their PD, whoever, and be like, hey, where do you guys do your small town local events? What's your favorite brewery? Where do you guys go to hang out and watch a live band? And it's just that times 36 shows. And then I imagine every single one of these dates, I had at least 10 no's. So multiply that. That's how many conversations you have until you've got this booked. By the way, it's not COVID anymore. So most of these places had conflicts. So it was a struggle to get it all in kind of like a format that makes us run around the US and not like a zigzag pattern. So
do you think if your wife got your like a password to your computer that she might think you're a serial killer?
Not my wife, but we'll see about that. But if she had my access code to my computer, I think, no, I think she, what's that? Oh my God, what's the meme with all the targets in the background? I can't remember what TV show it's from. When he's like plotting out all the pins on a map.
Oh, the Always Sunny with
Always Sunny. I don't know why I couldn't think of Always Sunny.
Yes, I know what you're
what a
talking
great
about.
show.
that is literally what my desk looked like when we were planning this. And like, yeah, I mean, it's chaos. I just look like a crazy person, Benny. I don't look like I'm going to kill anybody. But, you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, but I mean, even me, like being a fly on the wall in terms of the logistics stuff, like every day after shows, I mean, Dustin gets on the bus and he and Ron are like immediately having quick conversations about like, okay, next time we're going to do this, we're not going to do this. And it's like that thing is attacked like right away. And I feel like those things, you know, go into play the next time it comes around. And that's a big part of it too, is just like immediately analyzing everything.
That special on Walmart where they're like, yeah, so we have such a crazy system that we know when it rains on a Monday in Florida that we need like red gummy bears, and they'll ship them like immediately.
That's wild. I love that. That's amazing data.
They have all this crazy data that aggregates, and like they figure out all this stuff where they just immediately ship things like instantaneously. And I feel like that's what Starset is. You go to a place and they're like, they didn't like the LED helmets. We can't do any more LEDs in Nebraska. We can't do it. Like, but we get to Chattanooga, we're up 40%.
Yeah, it'd be cool to get to that level. I will say I know that data level on festivals. I know exactly when if we're looking at a certain forecast, like you know what to bring out, and if you don't, you did something wrong. Like you know it's going to dip into the 50s, you bring hoodies out. If you're stupid, but yeah. I don't know. It'd be cool. I think Amazon's doing the same thing. They just have a really great understanding of where certain demand is, and it'd be awesome to have that level of data. This is like way smaller than that in a capacity where you just understand the fans. And truly, again, it goes back to the commitments that have been made from tour over tour. We've luckily been able to do 5 tours since really COVID kind of opened things up. And just leverage that information, make sure you know where the people are. And then here we go.
Yeah. I mean, it's like social media in a lot of ways. Is if you know the behavior of your customer, it opens up the opportunities for just growth in general. I mean, totally. And plus you're honoring what people want. You know, people like to be given something that they want. So that's a big part of it too. Let's not discount the
fact that like songwriting at the core, it's understanding, it's respectful fan base and making sure that the quality of your events are absolutely stellar. They cannot be weak. We can't give them.
Well, that's your whole business model. Is you have somebody come see you and then they go and tell somebody else. Like, so when you're in retail, they tell you like someone has a bad experience, they're going to go and tell 5 people versus someone has a good experience. You know, it's such a de minimis amount in exchange. But I got to tell you, when I went and saw you at Mohegan Sun, there was literally a dude, and I think I said this maybe, I'm not sure which Starset member I said this to, but like there's a guy in front of me that was like, that's Starset. I think I've heard them on Spotify. They're great. I'm going to have to add them like right now, like in front of me as like some of your band was like walking away. I'm like, mission accomplished, Dustin. And it's like, but that's the thing. You guys have such a wow level between your interaction with the people, between if you do a big show, you do a big show. So when people leave, it is always like, holy shit, that's awesome. I don't know what I just saw, but like I have to tell people about it.
Yeah. And on top of that, I mean, talking to some of the fans too, considering the acoustic events, there are a lot of people out there that maybe don't want to see big shows, or they feel anxious in big crowds. And so a lot of people I've talked to also are like, I really love this because I love listening to the music in its full version at home. But in terms of like the social situation, they prefer to be at a smaller thing.
That's a good point.
It's really cool
kids.
and kids and less volume. There are like a lot of reasons that it works, and that might be a great solution for people that just want to see that,
There's a lot of people that don't want to deal with the light show. The strobes, right. Or like you said, the big crowds, and it's almost opened up a whole different demographic of showgoers that this was not intended. Like we just thought we'd see our fans who've been to other shows, and there's fans that are coming out that have never seen us and this is their first time. You're like, wow, okay, this isn't exactly what we always do, but then maybe we'll just do more of these too. So yeah, it's pretty cool to experience that.
Well, it's amazing the interaction though with the people that you have, and you've created a brand that goes ask questions, learn about us, and you guys are information download to people. So anyone that wants to learn about Starset, there's a universe. You use words like universe. There's a whole universe to what you do. So the fact is that you've given people carte blanche access to you guys to continue asking questions, and that's the thing is you have people that are active. It's actively seeking information about you because you've created this brand awareness. Whereas like if you like Black Sabbath, you're like, what kind of weed are we smoking, bro? So it's like, you know what I mean? Like Ozzy does, he doesn't even speak to people. He's just like, and like sign something. Whereas you guys are like, well, if you want to learn about, you know, where Cory's from, Dustin will tell him. And then, you know, we'll all learn. But that's an amazing thing that you guys do. The fact that you go and you're like, I don't want to say penetrating the markets, but you're saying, hey man, if you want to come meet us, if you want to come in a smaller, like, here's a different way to experience us. And it's a crazy experience. So like you're a kid and you've never been to a show. You know, I took my kid, never been to a show. You're her first concert. And she was just so blown away by everything. And one of my favorite comments she made was, I love how the strings sound. I'm like, oh, that's so nice, because you guys have 7 live people playing in front of you, and it's live strings, live vocals, and it's like you can hear it all, and it's such an incredible thing to witness.
And not to say that the big shows don't portray that, they do. We'll see. I mean, we always make advances in the way that we have our audio at shows, but like on these, the girls really shine. Like there's a bigger, the strings are so powerful and acoustic. And with Cory's edition, again, the 3 of them, as you kind of said, Ben, you can almost do it by that. It's an awesome sound. So
yeah. Well, and it's cool. I mean, it's fun because we have a lot of spontaneity, and there are moments where you can just kind of go off the rails, and you know, we do these little interludes and fun sounds, and it's interactive. So it's really cool. I think people really enjoy it for sure.
Dustin says a lot. It's like the only event and the only place that we actually even break the fourth wall down, and I guess that it really is true. Unless you happen to catch us on the side of the road, or catch him in his hometown, this is the only time you really get to experience that. And it's good that we found a time and place for that, because people definitely want it. So,
yeah. Oh, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So you guys are about halfway through now, and when this episode comes out, it'll be closer to wrapping up, I think. Are you working on anything else while you're on this tour? I know you guys are multitaskers. So are you like, while dealing with the day-to-day, looking at future plans and coming up with different things? Anything you can reveal?
I've had like
that's Ron's life. He's always working.
The first couple of days off were just making sure the rest of this tour was like rock solid and everything. Every schedule was confirmed. But then I've been working on, we do. Dustin and I kind of like curate and make sure everything is right with the merch store, and everything happens online too. So we do all that ourselves. So that's been my goal, is just to make sure the holidays and everything in terms of the end of the year is stocked up and well done. We always have a big Black Friday sale and things happen around that time, and that's always one of the more prominent things that we'll actually do online. So I've been working on that. And then just as of like last week, I started to, regrettably, but it's necessary, open all of the old emails from the postponed tour of Europe. And I am now trying to get all of that underway for February. So I wish we had just done that tour. Damn.
Yeah. Well, I think it's
not
still,
saying that people watching, like, we're not looking forward to coming there. We were looking forward to coming there last year. A lot of things went wrong, but, we're eager to get back. It's just a mountain of things that need to be done before that tour starts. So
right. And I've seen, just from watching other bands, a lot of people still are having, even big bands, having trouble making things work over there, because it's just, there's probably still a lot of recovery to be done since COVID.
I guess just the fuel prices alone are pretty bad, but in general, it's I don't know. I feel like it's going to be about the same as when we went back on the road right after COVID. I don't know what I call it the Wild West in the US, but I don't know what it's going to be like in Europe. I've only heard from certain people that have been there, and they've only had small, short tours. So I'm very eager to hear from some of the TMs and friends I have in the industry, what it's been like before we get there. So.
Well, I was going to say, I know that Anthrax had canceled some of their European tour because they just couldn't justify the expenses, because it was going to be 3 times more expensive. Because Steve Wood, who came on the show, told us getting a bus right now and drivers, it's like 3 times more expensive. Everyone's looking for everybody. And then it's like, if you want, in fact, I noticed that Richard Shaw, by the way, guys, was driving a bus. So like now, if you want to be in a band, you become a tour manager, because everyone needs a bus driver now.
Well, we just had, that's funny you even say that, because we just had one of the tour manager of Skillet come out and fill in for 5 dates while my main driver had to leave. Like and he's one of the rare guys in the industry where he's just like multifaceted, does all things. Plus he has a CDL so he can move their buses around when needed, which is amazing for a crew guy to have. Yeah, having a crew person that has that capability is integral. We don't have one. I've said multiple times that I should get a CDL myself just to be able to move from point A to point B when we don't have that opportunity. I very well may. I don't know. It's just another thing that maybe I don't.
I'm surprised you don't have it already.
I'm legally allowed to move them, but I just, if I have it, I have a feeling I'm going to get called upon to do it. Not from us, but just in a situation where I'd be like, well, there's the emergency. I need to do it myself. And I don't know if I really want that the capability.
Another responsibility here.
Yeah. But in Europe, we were lucky enough to get a deposit down on a bus last year. And I think it's one of the mainstay buses that Siobhán and I have been on before. And they're a great company. So I think we'll get grandfathered into a rate. I hope, cross my fingers, we'll find out next week. So,
yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Well, I guess along those lines, let me ask you, I mean, for anyone that's listening and maybe interested in getting involved in the industry as the demand is clearly there, if you want to get into tour managing or something where there's a need for it, I mean, what would be your advice to like some of the skills you should get or experience or how to go about it? You know, because maybe there are people out there that they have that skill and have no idea that it exists in the world of music touring, you know?
I would break it down a couple different ways now, because there's so many different jobs in this industry. A crew person for like, and I can't speak to all of it because I haven't done a lot of these jobs. I mean, I really, as a standard crew, I mean, I know you have like a drum tech, guitar tech, front of house guy, lighting guy or gal, and having it separated into those, then you certainly have more people on top of that, depending how big your camp is. I won't speak to a lot of those. As far as a tour manager is concerned, at least for someone that would be good for us to work out or work with, if you've ever had a group of friends or people and you notice that you're the person that is the one trying to organize and text and get that group together, or you're the one that's like, guys, you're making a stupid decision, let's do this, and you end up finding out that you're the alpha, you're probably going to make a good tour manager or a good wedding planner or somebody that at least is in a good organization sense of a leadership role. Getting into it though, man, you'd have to, I think it's just like becoming anything else. Like it really is who you know, I think, in some of these situations. I don't know.
Yeah, it's so weird. And in this industry, there's no like, oh, I'm going to go apply for a job to be a tour manager type of situation. Right. It's always like anything, you know, if you're doing professional creative work, it's like you just start to associate with that area or that industry and you kind of find the cracks, you talk to people, you get to know people, you start doing it. And, you know, obviously you can't just jump up to a major tour if it's something you're interested in. I'm guessing you find some local or regional band and you start getting that shit together and see if you can get like...
Go ahead, Benny. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, it's amazing when you hear a guy like Steve Wood who does the Hollywood Vampires. I talk to him all the time because he just blows my mind. And he's like, you know, one of his jobs was making sure Johnny Depp never went through the front door of a building. Like that was an actual job. And I imagine it's a crazy job.
At that level, that makes sense.
Well, yeah, and they all take separate private jets. Yeah.
Well, I noticed that. So a couple of my friends have posted that they have a multitude of positions open, that there is a huge hole in the industry for crew people. And I know there was an exodus after COVID. I know a lot of people went home and then stayed home. And even into the spring of 2022, there was absolutely a need for crew and all different jobs. I know that there was plenty of people that were at the level that we were talking about that soared very quickly into higher positions, just kind of necessity. They had to. And then the best ones took that and are now killing it. I'm sure there were multiple positions. I talked to the guy that we had out with Skillet. There was a lot of horror stories. There were a lot of people that got into some positions that were like, wow, this was a mistake. Not saying their camp, but we knew of people that was like, wow, this is out of necessity. We had to do it. I think the time is now for a lot of people that would be interested in getting into this industry, though, because of how crazy the cards have been shuffled.
Right. Well, I remember on the episode we did with Steve Wood, as Ben mentioned, I think he told us a story about how they had, you know, hired a bus driver and then like the morning or the night before the tour,
was it
he just sent him a text. No, Steve Wood. I don't remember
No,
what
saying,
band
I
it
think
was
the
for.
band was Shinedown, wasn't
Oh,
it?
it could have been, but the bus driver just like canceled via text like the day of or the day before, and of course he's like, "What happened?"
And he was the backup bus driver, by the way.
And I wasn't even talking about bus drivers, Siobhán. I won't even get into what we dealt with in the spring and summer, and how much turnover and out of necessity, out of safety, there's so, but not specifically my stories, but that was awful to hear. I mean, we're talking about people's lives in their hands, and just to understand certain situations where people may or may not have been qualified. There was, people coming back from not doing the job for years to people that just straight up shouldn't even be behind the wheel. Man, that's scary. There's no amount of money on that one. That's, but I will say, if you're CDL and you haven't, get in with the folks and take your job seriously. And man, is that an amazing position to be able to get into, because there was just not enough of them this year. I think things are slowing down now, but man, what a crazy one to think about.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's kind of the running joke is if you want to be the best paid person on tour, drive the bus. Because for the amount of work you put in to be a musician, it's a long haul, and there's a lot of us out there, and but only so many bands.
To the argument will be, I'm playing bass, you're playing violin. If I hit a wrong note, I don't kill anyone.
Oh, of course. Absolutely. So, I totally see the value in it. I mean, you should definitely have the most highly qualified person available, because I know what it's like, you feel good.
And I guess killing is the worst thing. How about just if everyone doesn't sleep, the next 10 days suck.
Right.
So we've learned that. And I've made mistakes too. It is a wild dynamic when you're living in a house that rolls. So
yeah, definitely.
I gotta tell you that the more Cory and I were like onlookers to the rock world of all you guys that are real rock stars. But like we were there, we just were cleaning the toilets or just hanging out, getting coffee for all of you. But now I gotta tell you, like talking to our friends and hearing some of these stories, I'm glad I'm not successful. I'm glad I'm stuck in my basement. I get to hang out with my dog all the time. He's got kennel cough right now, so I get to like hang out and make sure he's okay. I know it's terrible. And my cats are right over there, and I can make songs whenever I want, but also go up and make myself some hot cocoa. So it's like, do I want to be in the middle of Mississippi because my tour bus broke down and then Dustin's mad at me? Or could I just stay at home with my dog? And it's like, I think I just want to stay home with my dog. I saved myself a whole bunch.
I paint this so negatively just to apparently make you feel better. But you aren't not successful, so don't put yourself down.
I will say though, I feel like the times I remember of the bus needing to be fixed, it's always somewhere that you don't want to be. I think the last tour.
What's that truck stop in Alabama?
Yes. I woke up and I'm thinking, oh great, okay, we're here, it's the day off, and I look outside and we're at a Love's, and then I look on the map and it's like barely loading because we're in the middle of Alabama and there's like nothing except for like a small Baptist church and like a cemetery.
I spent my day at Hardee's at one of those booths that are like curved, like that, like it's a really bad booth with the crappy Love's Wi-Fi that you have to pay like $10.99 for like a 4-hour access. I sat there all day and worked. Hey, that's road life.
It really is.
So Benny, when it's great, it's great. When it's awful, it's fucking awful. So that's touring.
Yeah.
I think there's something to be said for the fact that there is that swing. It's you never know, right? It's the unknown that makes it fun and unique. And the bad times are there's going to be a good time coming after that. So
totally, yeah.
I take that any day over the monotony of what I used to do, which was to drive an hour and a half every morning, at 9 o'clock and sit in an office for 8 or 9 hours, then drive an hour and a half back and then be tired and then still want to do music and stuff and then sit there and like just be keeping my eyes open, trying to like whatever work on a track or do whatever I got to do.
I share that, Cory. I knew very quickly, sitting in a desk or being even on the road with the old job. I knew. I was just like, I can't. It's more about answering to multitudes of people and then also just kind of feeling like you're being shuffled through things. Like some people just can do it. And, I applaud like my brother, for example. He's fantastic at how he's able to just continue to climb a corporate ladder and live in that environment. And he's totally a person that can do that. Whereas me, 3 years older than him. I couldn't do that to save my life.
Well, you guys are lucky. You have a really important thing, and that's people giving fucks about you. Like, that's the thing. So there's a reason for it. So, like, you go.
We started off with saying, why are we doing this? Because people care, and that's amazing.
And that's the thing is, like, so many bands like tour hoping that they'll care, and you tour because they care. And you're doing this tour specifically because people care, because, again, like a band like where you go play a place like Wally's, you don't see a band of the level like Starset, but you guys like took over it. There's a bunch of people outside. You immediately, you recognize your fans, and it's a really cool thing. So it's like if you're having a bad experience, your bus breaks down in Alabama, but there's 800 people, 500 people that are literally going out of their minds to see you. Whereas like, no, if I just break down, nobody cares.
Yeah. And that's the urgency that comes from a breakdown, or that comes from the reason why, like, maybe the first 2 weeks of tour, I suck at sleeping because you get the buses back from like a tour that was rented, and you don't know if it's going to be running right. And you trust the mechanics that did the pre-inspections before you took off and all that. But, basically, the anxiety or the pressure of a breakdown or just getting to the next show is huge, because you just don't want to let anyone down. And that's like pretty much how I feel the whole time. So I'm up, and then I get off tour, and then I like have all this, like, everything's a stress relief for like a couple months, and then it's just back up again.
Ron goes off the grid to recover.
Yeah.
I don't blame you, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, high risk, high reward in a lot of ways. And even at some of these events, I've had people ask me, like, they have, they're working a job, but they love music and they want to get into it. And it's hard to, give advice to that, because the truth is you just kind of have to jump all in and do it and take the risk. And there's no good time to like do it on the side necessarily. Like some people can.
That's been a lot of the questions this tour. I was like, what does it take? What's the one piece of advice you'd give to an aspiring musician? And I think Dustin will always answer songwriting. But then after that, it's like, do you have it in you to basically, if you have the songs, do you have it in you to commit all of it and all of your time? I don't know. I didn't know if I did when I first started this. And I remember when I had to quit my job, and it was like, all right, this is real now. Like, here we go. So, and I think that's like, it's not even just like that with music. It's like that with any entrepreneurial thing.
Well, that's a good segue for Cory, because, we just got, Siobhán wanted to tell this story, which I guess I appreciate you supporting us, Siobhán. But Cory and I actually got gold records in the mail this week.
Amazing.
Which was pretty rad, because Cory at the time was working his real job, struggling with the concept of being a full-time musician. So, Cory, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, no, so it does segue kind of nice, because at that time I was working, minimum 40 hours, but with, 3 hours of commuting every day. And I was also working a second full-time job as a musician, whether it's performing or recording or doing anything at teaching lessons, which is how I was able to shift from a job that I, hated, and in like a type of work, a corporate type of job that I hated, into doing this full-time, whatever the hell it is I do. But it was because I reached a point where the scale was tipping with like the way that my side job was getting closer and closer to income and satisfaction as my main job. So that's how I was, able to make that jump. Is you did the math. You go, oh wait, if I didn't waste my time at my day job, the work I'm doing on the side would actually eclipse that. So why am I doing that? So I made that jump. But to the point of the records that we got, at the time we were working with Ollie Herbert of All That Remains on Lost Symphony tracks. Was he staying at your house, I think, Ben?
Yeah, he was staying at my house.
An entire week. He was there, and so I have in my calendar, like, Ollie at Ben's house this week, and I would get out of work and like shoot over there and would be working on stuff. And then like one day, he's basically like, we got this track on the new All That Remains record. And I think at the time, Ben and I were like, we should be focusing on Lost Symphony right now, Ollie. Like, but he's like, I really need to record some stuff, and it's not working out.
I know why we started focusing on that, because Ollie was staying with us, but during this week they wanted him to fly back to California, because All That Remains camp. Howard Benson was working with them out in California, and he was like, oh, this song sucks. It needs to be better. Like, we need Ollie back. And Ollie's like, the reason Cory and I ended up doing it was because we were like, dude, whatever you could go do out there, we could fucking do it here. Just tell them to send us the fucking song so we can move on to Lost Symphony. So that's exactly what Howard Benson did. He basically said, here's a piece of shit cover of this song. It sounds like a bar band covering it. And when he sent it to us, it certainly sounded nothing like what it sounds like now. And, we got the stems, and on a night where Ollie was just like, we're doing our extracurricular, like, oh, let's hang out and jam and smoke. Ollie's like, yeah, you want to work on this song? And Cory came from work with his bass because, we decided the whole thing needed to be tore apart. And, Ollie looked at Cory and was like, well, someone needs to play the bass. And
it might as well be you. Yeah.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so that was awesome. And it's funny, like looking back, it's such like, it was like one night, 6 years ago, whatever the hell it was. Right. And so I'm like trying to remember a lot of what happened, but yeah, it was a lot of just like, all right, we're bouncing around ideas. Ollie had to leave like the next day or something. Like it was a real like time crunch. So we just did all this work. I think we're there. I got out of work at 5 or 6, and we worked until 2 or something in the morning. Got all the tracks together, and I'm emailing them off to the team in California and everything. And then we just kind of like wiped our hands. Ben did the piano. We did work a lot with Ollie, which was awesome. Just like shooting ideas around on the guitar. And like, that's the coolest part, obviously, bass is fun and all, but you hear all these guitar licks that when they
sent it to us, there was no lead guitar, which I was just dumbfounded by. I'm like, wait a minute. You got Ollie Herbert, who can't do much of anything other than write the craziest wizardly leads on the planet, because that's what he was good at. He wasn't even the greatest at rhythm guitar. His fucking leads were the greatest shit ever, and his compositional stuff. So it's like, how is this? No wonder this song sounds like shit. You didn't utilize like your 12-cylinder engine over here. So, we got to sit there and be like, yeah, that would be the cool solo you should do, and put, layers of bass and keyboards, and I think I even put some synth, like string kind of things. I'm like, dude, you got to make it sound epic.
Yeah, and then I had to take that home, and I did all the cleanup I could in like the few hours I had, and sent it back to him. And like I said,
what do you think the total amount of hours on it was
that we did? I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 of tracking, and then I probably spent like 3 or 4 hours of comping and cleanup. But like I know it wasn't like done, but at the time we had the mentality of like, we're not getting paid for this. It was kind of just doing a favor for Ollie. Sure. And we're like, we know that the guy making this record is getting like 6 figures, so like, you can like reamp these, right? You can take care of this. Like, we did our part. Like, here's the stuff. Yeah. I'm like, I got to work in the morning. Like, it was just one of those deals. And
isn't it wild how 10 hours, 11 hours of work can turn into something that you didn't really necessarily know at the time. This has been learned time and time again by many different people. It's like, you just don't know what circumstance or what interaction or what introduction to what person at any given point is going to change like the trajectory of everything else that you're doing.
Well, the irony of it, Ron, is that Ollie was a horrible communicator. So the rest of the band didn't even know. We played on the song because if you go on to Wikipedia, Howard Benson played the keyboards. And I think the dude from Bad Company played the bass. And we're like, that's not right.
The credits didn't get back to the label, right?
Mike reached out and inquired, hey, didn't you guys play on this? And because Ollie just never mentioned it. So they, we clarified that, and they were super cool and like, oh, we're going to get you guys records. Like, this song went gold. You deserve some credit. And
that's awesome.
They've been awesome since then. They've kind of, we never expected much. We just we did our thing. We were happy to, help out Ollie. When we saw it doing well, we're like, oh, that's cool. We probably should have like asked for something, but whatever,
something. Yeah.
But they showed their appreciation, and we appreciate that. And now I have a cool thing to put on my wall. It's not as many things as Ben. I clearly have to step up my wall game, but we'll get there.
Hey, it starts with one. So that's awesome, guys. That's great.
But that said, I think your point to like, we just did it. We were like, all right, let's see what happens. And we didn't, fuss about it. We didn't say, no, Ollie, like, go fly to California. We don't want to deal with, like, we just took the opportunity. We made it work the best we could. And, after a while, it has paid off pretty well. It's been pretty cool. So
yeah, I mean, I think that's a lot of success when the people we've talked to, it's just like your curiosity and your interest and your willingness to do something is often what leads to the next thing. You can't say, oh, I'm only going to take the thing that's definitely going to produce something. You just have to constantly stay curious and stay dedicated and throw yourself in situations to expand your experience. And, you never know when it's going to come back to you.
Yeah, not being an opportunist would be, I think, the one thing that I'd say would have stopped anything, at least what I've been involved with. Like, if I had just said, early on when I met Dustin, and I knew like we both liked music. We both liked certain types of music. And if I didn't like expound upon that further and get more interested in like what he was writing and trying to understand, like actually being more of like a sounding board. He has many friends that do that for him. But like I was always one, even no matter where I was, listening to like the next track that he wrote. That was an opportunity that I didn't even realize I was doing. I was just doing it out of like, cool, is this passion? I enjoy music. And all of a sudden, look what it turns into. End up working with the guy. Like, so you just don't know. So yeah, be curious. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think we need more life advice from Ron, and we're coming to the end.
Put a black logo around me with some like one word phrase.
Yeah,
just like create a whole Instagram account. Ron Wisdom.
And that's a good place. It's a good place to leave it here. Yeah. On 2020, make sure you guys, like I said, I don't know exactly how many dates will be left on the acoustic tour when this comes out, if any, but obviously check out starsetonline.com, check out the tour dates, and make sure you guys catch them. Even if it's not on this tour, go see them, because they're one of the greatest live bands and shows that I've had the chance to see.
Well, and if you love Starset, which is probably a huge chipset of our freaking people watching right now, because everyone that watches us loves Starset, it seems. But if you do love Starset and you ever see a Batman logo on Dustin's Instagram, find out where the band is that night and just know that you're being called upon.
There's an activation, and I'm probably not part of it. For liability's sake.
Yeah. Ron, anything else you want to let people know about?
No, I think you stilled it up pretty well. I'm not, I don't know when this will air. So, if you happen to want to take a trip to Europe, I'm sure it'll be airing by then. Come see us. Some of these people have waited a long time to see a show, and man, we are pumped to see them as well. So hopefully we can see you.
Very cool. All right, guys, check out 2020-d.com, and we'll see you next week.
This is real, and I believe this. I don't want to be an old man filled with regret and think back and be like, why didn't I write more songs? Why didn't I sing? Why didn't I play more shows? Why didn't I get out there while I could, when I could? And so COVID, I think, really put it into perspective a lot too, because, all of our careers were just completely just robbed from us. And so I just thought about it. I'm like, man, if we ever get a chance again to play a show, because there was times where you're just like, is it over? I remember thinking that at one point during,
I feel like that now. Is it over?
Yeah.
It could be any day.
Yeah, it could be any day. Yeah, seriously. So yeah, I just want to do it as much as I can while I can. Why not? Let's go.